What's up, y'all? What's going on?
Hey.
Also known as Jack from Brooklyn, coming to you from bedside Brooklyn. There's still COVID, so my ass is in my house. My ass has been in my house since March. It's driving me a little crazy, but it's Global Bar Week, and we're here talking for BCB about Black Lives Matter and how our industry should respond to consumers in light of a global Black Lives Matter movement. To make a very long story short, in May of this year, we watched George Floyd be murdered. And because people were home, they had a chance to actually think about it, and they realized that racism is a real thing. We haven't been making it up all this time. And everyone put up their little black boxes and said Black Lives Matter, and then they went back to their regular lives. And in our regular lives, Black Lives Matter every day. So let's have a conversation from the perspective of how consumers should be affected, of how the industry should respond to Black Lives Matter. Before we get into that, let's go around the room. Everyone introduce yourselves. Cocktail Bandits, tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do, why you're dope.
Okay.
Well, thank you for inviting us to be a part of this panel, Jackie.
Absolutely.
We enjoy working with you whenever we can.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Johnny Caldwell.
I'm Taneka Reaves,
and we are the Cocktail
Bandits, your curly ladies who talk cocktails daily.
And we're located in beautiful and historic Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes, and we like to talk about culture through beverages, of course, and how they're all connected.
Why don't you got a copy of the book handy so you can show off the book?
We do. Thank you. We didn't know how to jump in with it, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, since you asked,
it's usually reserved for the end.
For the end, you know.
Boom. We will bring it back at the end. We will make
We'll
sure.
bring that back.
Okay.
Fatima, tell people who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why you're dope.
I am Fatima. I'm from Chicago. Right now I'm sitting in Miami at friends' houses. I recently founded a nonprofit rooted in hospitality. The mission of Rooted is to provide education, mentoring, entrepreneurship, and employment opportunities to Black people. And I am here. Thanks for having me here, Jack.
Absolutely.
And Bowie. And Bowie.
Bowie, they're talking to you. He's so rude. Samara, please tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why you are dope.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jackie, as always, for including me on these amazing panels and discussions, these very timely and needed discussions. Hi, I'm Samara Davis, founder of Black Bourbon Society and also founding executive director of Diversity Distilled. And I come to this industry as a consumer and created these organizations and businesses based off of the assessment of the need for diversity and inclusion within the spirit space, but then also internally within the brand space. So,
all right.
Glad to be here.
So let's talk for a minute about what life was like in our industry for consumers before Black Lives Mattered.
Okay, we can start. That's really the basis of our brand and our business. Being located here in Charleston, it's a very homogenous environment. Taneka and I met at the College of Charleston, and there was a food festival happening right across the street from our school, and we had never been marketed to attend that event. So we didn't know it was even going on
until we were done in college.
So we saw all that attention coming to Charleston internationally, and just wanted to find our place in the industry. Like, there was so much attention on our chefs, but we didn't want to follow that lane. But then we looked at the bar scene, and it was lacking female presence, and it was lacking any Black presence at all in the front of the bar. So we decided we wanted to be what we didn't see.
And even in the, pre-COVID, they have a multicultural department in some of these brands, and there are people who drink, multicultural, and that's everybody. And I'm like, Black people and Mexicans and LGBT, they're all like the same kind of spirits, but yeah, they're all grouped in the same kind of like space. And so that always blew my mind that you would think that we don't have refined palates as well. So.
Well, that's exactly why we started Black Bourbon Society. We started it 4 years ago. And I realized the same thing that you ladies realized when I was working with a brand to produce events. So I had came on as a third party producer for a spirits brand in San Francisco. And I was creating these direct consumer marketing events, these experiences for the brands. And I just so happened to ask, like, as an event planner, I want to make sure that I do my job well. So I asked, who am I doing these for? And it was in that moment when I got a chance to see the marketing deck and the marketing directives for how they really do bucket consumers of color, how they do really stereotype consumers of color, and how they really do limit our exposure to certain brands, or they push certain products and expressions solely on us versus what they offer other brands. That's exactly how Black Bourbon Society came about. It was challenging the industry to say, like, hey, wait a minute. Why do you think Black people only drink cheap liquor?
Exactly.
We do everything big.
They grew up watching the Sun, and they think we drink Ripple.
Right. But my original conversation with the brand rep in San Francisco was, we wear Gucci and have Louis Vuitton purses. Why would you think we would drink cheap stuff? Like, we go all out. Even if we don't have it, we find a way to get it. So that, we'll work extra hard just so we can have the best and the most expensive thing. You're totally missing out on how to market to this audience in the correct way.
So also, Black people are loyal to the brands that they choose too.
Yes.
The most loyal.
Not loyalty inside our DNA.
Yes.
Right.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
Speak to that though.
I mean, coming from being a bartender in Chicago, like those cocktail bars in Chicago are all white. I would go to trainings, like USBG related trainings or whatever, and there'll be 2 people, maybe 5. Y'all probably know all the 5 bartenders who were there. It'd be like me, Josh, Ramon, everybody who we all know. And it's like, you get sick of saying that, because that's there's more bartenders that are Black in the city, but you only know about it because you know somebody who knows somebody. They don't go out of their way to reach out to Black people at all.
In a general sense, I think Tracy Franklin said it best a couple of weeks ago. They've treated Black people like a side piece.
Right.
They have.
It wasn't until
Go ahead.
I would go and visit Taneka in bars. She has a bartending experience outside of cocktail events. I was in law school and I would go and visit her at the bar. And it was the first time I had somebody actually say, here's a cocktail, try this. Like, I made this cocktail, it's crap, and using these ingredients, try this. And as a consumer, I was like, wow, it took it from a passive experience to an active experience and an educational experience. Because now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna look for this on the bar or at the liquor store when I go to stock my bar. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know what, now I'm giving it appreciation that you give a chef after making a dish, because it's that much intention and craft that goes into making a cocktail.
Right.
And now you can upsell to that customer because now they trust you.
Right.
So now you can make money for your bar. But see, it's all about providing the experience that they never knew they were missing.
So when we created Black Bourbon Society, I was so passionate about this mission. I joined the USBG. I started going to all the events. I started repping, really advocating for people of color. And I will never forget when I introduced myself to one of the brands and I said, I really want you to come and do an event with me. I want you to see what our group looks like. And the flat out response was, oh, well, I didn't know you drank bourbon. I didn't know Black people liked bourbon. So, sure, I'll go, but I just didn't really, it wasn't on the radar. So one of the things that we realized is that, especially coming from the bourbon industry. So you guys are a little bit more broader than me because you guys get to play with all of the spirits. But on the bourbon and the American whiskey side, we're looking at folks that come straight out of Kentucky. They have no real, and not Louisville, which is very progressive, but we're talking about the backwoods of Kentucky. Like they've got bathtubs in their front yard, in these neighborhoods, some of these neighborhoods. They've never seen what we look like. And the people they entrust to do the marketing for their companies, the larger conglomerates that, these companies all roll up into, they don't know what we look like either. Not because they're from the backwoods of Kentucky, but because they're a bunch of young white girls fresh out of college that get these little marketing degrees and plan these activations all over the country. So it's real important. It was really important for me, for you guys, for all of us to, make noise and to really show them like, hello, we do exist and this is what we look like, not whatever vision you have of us on TV or not whatever stereotype is stuck in your marketing deck, which is awful and built on bias and built on like the worst stereotypes. Like they might as well have been caricatures from Jim Crow.
Yes.
I don't know. So we are needed to repaint the picture for these folks because the education is limited. Their access to what we look like is extremely limited.
Let's talk for a minute about the bucket that Sam talked about. That bucket, there's an expression that they use when you put a bunch of marginalized people into a bucket. Does anyone remember this? Is anyone familiar with the expression crabs in the bucket?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Crabs in a barrel.
What do crabs in a barrel do?
Try to climb out on each other.
Why?
Everybody just wants to
trying to survive.
They just want to survive.
A barrel is not the natural environment for a crab.
Yeah.
Right.
Crabs are used to the ocean. They're not used to being confined to a barrel. So
Yeah.
what happens for these brands when they just try to put all of these different groups, and I don't just mean they're trying to put Black and brown and women and queer and disabled, just Blackness, because Blackness is not a monolith. What happens when they try to put us all into that one convenient square?
You get it wrong.
Who misses out more, them or us though? Because I mean, that's money that they could have made as a brand. That's loyalty that they could have gotten. So
Sam,
I mean, I feel like they're missing out more because we're gonna do what we're gonna do regardless. Like we're gonna drink bourbon, whether they know we're drinking bourbon or not. Even though,
Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't think that. So they get that we buy bourbon and that we drink spirits. Like,
right.
But they take that for granted. They take our consumership for granted. Their way, especially not necessarily in the bourbon world, but with other spirits brands, so especially some of the larger conglomerates that have bigger budgets, they'd rather invest in getting a Black spokesperson.
Yeah.
All their money into an endorsement from a rapper. And then they say, okay, check, we're done. We've got the Black community covered. Instead of doing these direct consumer marketing engagement events, these festivals, these one-on-one, genuine face-to-face activities like they do with other demographics. So they know that they're getting our money, but you're right. The potential to get more, to gain that loyalty in like a true, genuine fashion, they do miss that. They do miss out.
And it contributes to their marketing missteps. Whenever they put out a campaign that has some bias involved in it, some that's not tasteful, that errs on the side of being racist, they're like, oh, we didn't know. That's because nobody on your staff is Black. We've been in meetings with brands that we work with for 2-3+ years, and we've never seen a Black female employee.
And they didn't even notice.
They were like, oh, wow.
They were like, we have some Black men. We're like, yeah, we saw them. We see the Black people.
The mail does not count. Security desk does not count.
Exactly. Secretary doesn't count.
The barrel roller, the bottler does not count.
That's not it. We need somebody who has a voice at the table, at the creative meeting, who's picking out the influencers. And this is a brand who will say we emphasize on hip hop culture, that we focus on that music genre. Yeah. but then none of your staff reflects that. Yeah, you're fine with hiring the music acts and hiring the sports entertainers, but no one on your staff who has a voice over how that money is being spent, or what areas are being included on the tour. It's just so much that's being missed. So they are definitely suffering on a monetary standpoint, and also when they have to pay for it in the press.
Yep.
Yeah, but they think hip hop culture is Post Malone.
Exactly. That's where we're at right now.
Or, I mean, they don't even realize that there's a segment of African Americans, especially, that don't listen to hip hop at all. I mean, maybe I'm just old, but
You ain't that old. By the way, happy birthday, Samara.
Oh,
Happy birthday!
Working on your day off.
that's why I've been missing. I'm sorry, but
It's all good.
You deserve to enjoy.
For all the labor that you do, we wish you the happiest birthday. This is going out to all of Global Berwick. Happy birthday. We love you a lot for everything you do. Thank you so much. All right. Sam, this is the part where I was asking you to pull out the number. What's the number?
Oh, 3.5 billion annually.
How much do Black people spend on liquor every year?
You can say what?
3.5 billion. 3.5. Yeah. On wine, spirits, and tobacco.
So how much money how much more money could they make if they marketed to us correctly?
Oh man, it's limitless potential, because as Fatima keeps saying, once you build that loyalty, then we're with you for life, you know?
Well, Samara, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Samara. How many people have you converted to bourbon drinkers? Because in our world, we've converted so many people to tequila because they weren't afraid of it.
Right.
So how many people who are afraid of bourbon, who only was sticking to certain classic Black brands, have you converted over to sipping bourbon?
I can't necessarily quantify that, but I will say that we have about 20,000 members in our Facebook group alone, and about 90% of the people who come to BBS are brand new to whiskey. So,
That's awesome.
I mean, we do have connoisseurs in our group, but the majority, literally about 85 to 90% of the members who come to BBS are brand new. They're what we call bourbon curious. So if you want to just take from our small sample size of 20,000 active members, 90% of those are brand new to this industry, and they will just buy anything that we tell them to buy at this point, just because they are so eager to learn and they are so eager to get their journey started. They'll just run out and go get everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's for a second touch on that loyalty bit, because that's a big thing with Black people. We saw cognac get passed around a lot in 90s videos in hip hop. Can anyone speak to why that was a thing?
Yes, and that's funny you say that, because the point I was going to say to follow up with Samara was that it goes beyond just buying the spirit, but it goes to a beverage experience.
Yeah.
And we're so fortunate enough to get invited to go on these press trips where you go to Lawrenceburg or you go to Cognac, France, where we were at in February, and you get to meet these brands who have never seen Black people come to Cognac to try Cognac. Like, we went to so many different houses, small and large, and they were like, one, thank you guys, thank your culture, your community for drinking Cognac, because there was a time in France where people in France didn't drink Cognac.
Yeah.
So it had not been for the African-American, the African-American culture here in America,
Right.
Cognac would have faded out. It wouldn't be as popular as part of our culture as it is right now. So they were very gracious in expressing that, and also very inquisitive and asking us why, and how they can also reach us, and how they can market to us, and how they can continue to grow the love and appreciation that our community has for Cognac.
And learning about the Harlem Renaissance and how our musicians and our people went over there and were embraced in France and learned about this spirit and brought it back over there. Our soldiers who were over there fighting, who found out about yak and then started bringing that back over to the States. And then those brands really marketing into our Black magazines like Ebony and, those Jet, and you see Hennessy, you see your Seagrams, you see these brands that our people still drink. And it's just crazy how that's been passed down.
It's just you've been on that trip. We've got so many of our friends saying, we want to go to Cognac. We want to go and visit those breweries and distilleries and taste that 100-year-old cognac from out of that Jimmy John. Like, now they want to go and have a beverage experience there. So it just it supersedes just what they're buying in the liquor store. It's all about creating a beverage experience now.
I think that's so important. It goes beyond brand identity. Like you said, people still drink cognac in 2020 because their grandparents drank cognac.
Yes.
And this is something that has become generational for the Black community. It's been, like you said, 100 years because of that loyalty back towards Josephine Baker. Like, this is how far it goes back.
Right.
They still play in the restaurant.
Yeah. Exactly. And the positive treatment of our, of our Black soldiers during World War II, all of that has still been, we're still grateful for those moments and those brand experiences that our folks have had with cognac, that it has transcended generations, literally.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of that, like the business case, it's ridiculous. It's forever loyalty. Yeah.
Fatima, you were about to say something. I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
My uncle Titi fought in World War II. But my uncle and my dad both fought in World War II. But my uncle Titi was a drinker. My father wasn't. As a kid, I remember Titi always had a flask of cognac at him, always. So we'd be at the family reunion, and he'd be dancing, moving around. He'd be full of barbecue, listening to George Clinton, and he'd sneak me a little bit. I was like 5, 6 years old, taking a sip from the flask. But that is how cognac got into hip hop.
But even beyond that too, how many people know that cognac is a form of brandy? So like, it's the education part that's missed too. Because you'll say, you like cognac? They're like, oh no. Or you want some Hennessy? Hell yeah. I'm like, but you're missing the fact that they're one and the same. So you got to be educated on what you're consuming. Like we say again, no one will go in the store and say, give me any red shoe. You're going to go and say, I want those red bottoms, baby. Give me the
All right. Give me the Lubricant.
Be specific about what we're ordering, because it's so much more to being a consumer than just spending your money. Like, know what you're spending it on and get quality for that.
So let's talk for a minute about what happened in May and how things changed. Fatima, I know you're a Chicago girl. Tell me, from an industry perspective, is anyone paying attention to the South Side Chicago?
There are maybe two spots on the South Side that people pay attention to, and one is because Chef Eric won, James Beard Award, and the other is Promontory because it's owned by a restaurant group that owns a whole ton of restaurants that are not on, the South Side. And that's been something that we've been talking about a lot. It takes like all those brand people, like brand ambassadors, whatever. It takes some extra, like they have to make an extra step to like come out to the South Side, because most of the South Side restaurants and bars don't buy from the distributor. They buy from like a wholesale like store. And so it doesn't count toward that brand person's, numbers or whatever. So, no, they don't. There is a brand person that actually does. The Bacardi folks are always on the South Side of Chicago. I have to give them that.
Diageo folks too.
The who?
Diageo too is probably all over it.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, okay.
I know for a fact the Bacardi folks are. I don't know about Diageo though.
It depends on whoever their multicultural person is at the time.
No, I mean, like, I don't know if y'all know Emil, but Emil, he used to go to all the South Side bars. Like, I was surprised. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe because he's from France. That goes back to like the, French people embracing all things.
It depends on who the rep is and where they feel comfortable going. If they don't
exactly.
Side, they just don't go there. So that brand, that restaurant doesn't even know they can be getting, their menus printed, that they could be getting paint glasses. Don't even know benefits along with working with a rep, because the rep isn't going into their own establishment, even though they're turning way more bottles than the high-end places downtown.
And because Charleston is so homogenous, they experience all of these white restaurants and bars and consumers. Then you go to North Charleston and it's all Black and it's intimidating. Like
Right.
people
Yeah.
are scared to go on the other side of diversity, but they want us to be on that side of the diversity. So it's always interesting to see how they interact with an all Black audience. You know what I'm saying? So
It's work. I don't know if all those brand people want to do that work. I'm hoping that they like move to the other side in this post looting riot world and try to figure out a way to come and like just market to the people. Let them know what you have. They
and
might.
Black people are fun. We have a good time.
Exactly.
So,
Very accepting.
yeah.
So here's the issue with this, and we've had some conversations with Diversity Distilled, which is an organization that really does look at the diverse talent, it looks at the corporate structure of these brands, right? And looking for opportunities and pathways for to recruit diverse talent, to recruit, promote, and retain diverse talent. And going back all the way to the beginning of this conversation, like we said, brands have gotten away with having general marketing budget and then sticking a small group of people, especially their diverse talent, over into a bucket called multicultural.
Right.
So they are the ones that are charged with going into the hood or to the South side for you, Fatima, or for you guys, Cocktail Bandits, in the North side. And so they are the ones that are pegged to go into these underrepresented areas. That's how we would say it if we were writing a grant. To promote their products. But the conversations that I've been having with some of the brand reps is that it needs to be everybody's responsibility.
Right.
Everybody's responsibility. You're actually promoting bias, and you're promoting a segregated workforce. When you say, oh, these sales reps don't have to go over there. These sales reps are just luxury, or these sales reps are just all brand. And then, and those sales reps over here are the ones that are responsible for multicultural. So the overall corporate structure, the mindset separates, it's one built on bias. Mm-hmm. And it's one that is very segregation, and it's one that it's very dangerous, especially to Jackie's point. You blew up if you put up a black tile in May, and then you go back into your corporate structures and you say, okay, now Black and brown employees, you go to this area, and then white and whoever else go over to these areas. And on top of that, I'm sorry, my brain's going all at once, and you disproportionately divide the budget. Yeah. So then you say, oh, general market, you get 70-80% to do all these amazing events and activations. And then, Black and brown employees who are responsible for multicultural, which is a bucket for everybody else, you only get 10, 15, 20% to do all of the work for everybody else. So we really have to change the mindset of how these companies work, because they are promoting segregation. They are promoting division. And that's why we're looking ahead.
In all fairness, racism didn't exist before a couple of months ago. Let's talk for a minute about what happened in May. We saw people put up their little ID Black squares, right? What really happened? Did anything actually move or change?
We got bombarded with emails and opportunities.
Bombarded.
We couldn't even think straight. It was brands who wouldn't respond back to a "Hey, what's up? Saw you at Tails" email. Now it was like, oh, we got a budget now. All of a sudden, we got the email from 7 months ago. Hey, girls. All of a sudden, it's like,
hey, girl, hey.
Yes, hey, girl, hey.
Okay.
So we had to have those talks with them, like, are y'all being performative? We are not going to be tokenized. I mean, we turned down so many opportunities because of not trying to appease the brand's image by using our image.
Right.
Because we already had a mission for diversity and inclusion way before this. Like our topic that we're also presenting during Global Bar Week, Bar Convent Brooklyn, is on diversity and inclusion and how inclusivity increases profits. So we were already trying to push brands to market specifically to people of color and minority audiences. You gotta think, you guys, if you were putting up signs at your bar 50 years ago that said whites only, You have to deliberately market to Black audiences to say you are welcome in this space. Because there was a time, especially in the South, where we were not welcome in some spaces.
Right.
So you have to be intentional and deliberate about welcoming people into those spaces.
If you want them there.
If you want them there,
Don't
if you
just
want their
say
dollars
it.
there.
Don't just say it, because we found brands that just say that and then want to use us as their little, I guess, puppets, but you're not really about that life. So you have to really be about that life as well for us to work with you, because we have people that's in our DMs that's checking everything that we do too and saying, hey ladies, we don't know about this company, and we tell them why we work with certain brands.
Right.
So that accountability thing, Jackie. So people are on you.
So a fair amount of performance, but some real.
Some wanting to learn.
Yeah.
Open to learning.
Fatima, what's your experience?
So I'm gonna speak from not a brand experience, but from like a restaurant in Chicago kind of experience, because they're, you know, they, like so many restaurants and restaurant groups, put up those little black boxes and closed for Juneteenth, and then probably had no information to provide to the employees that were not working that day as to what Juneteenth was and why they were closing. And then like now back to status quo, like I worked for a restaurant group that only had one Black bartender, and I was part-time. This was pre-COVID. So it's just like they own like 6 or 7 bars and restaurants, and I was the only Black bartender in the whole. Whole.
Are you sure you have Black people in Chicago?
Obviously, apparently not enough that want to work. I don't know, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to be disparaging about the restaurant group, because whatever. But it was rough, y'all. It was rough. It was rough.
So I got inundated as well, and I got inundated, especially because we also really announced Diversity Distill. Diversity Distill was something that I had created at the end of last year and had like officially filed for in January. But when COVID hit, we needed to kind of pivot and switch with BBS. So I didn't get a chance to really push Diversity Distilled out as it was originally planned at the beginning of the year. But when everybody started throwing up those tiles, or when they didn't throw up those tiles, that's when we sent out our open letter to the spirits industry, and we're like, where are you? What are you doing?
Right.
And we then announced Diversity Distilled from there. So we also got inundated. But I will say, them reaching out to me, I didn't take it as performative. I really saw brands and individuals within those brands struggling to understand what was going on. They really kind of got that thump upside the forehead, like, wake up. We are in the middle of a racial
revolution.
Revolution. That's the word I'm looking for. Uprising, revolution. Revolution is perfect though. But we are in the middle of this reckoning, you know, and y'all are finally cluing in. So let me help to teach you, and let me teach you how to be aware of what's going on. I will say though, there is so much work to be done with some of these brands. They have no clue.
Right.
And so before we can even really implement strategy and put in structure and move forward towards true inclusion, we really have to work with folks on gathering their mindset and really understanding, like, okay, I need you to understand everything you've been taught as a kid, everything your grandmama told you was a lie, and we're gonna have to unlearn before we can really learn. And so that's where we are with them. But next time Cocktail Bandit, somebody calls you and says help, take every dime they have and help them the best way you can. It is not performative. Get your check.
They're trying at least.
Let me say this to back all that up. I got a bunch of requests, and then folks were like, oh, we'd love for you to come in and teach. I was like, sure. Here's what it will cost you. Oh.
Those are the ones we said no to. The ones who had a check, we took that check, sus. We don't take, you don't leave the money on the table. It was all that pro bono. We don't, we're a charity organization. We're just getting started. No.
Exposure.
No.
People die from exposure. I live in Brooklyn. I cannot pay rent. I cannot feed that cat with exposure.
Yeah.
People die.
I think all of us have more than proven ourselves, something that Black people are ingrained to do, something that we limit ourselves by saying, okay, no, one more. I have to prove myself. Nope, we done. Proving ourselves.
So
That's me at 40. That's me at 40, y'all.
you were ahead of the game. You were ahead of the game. It took me longer. So now that we know that we need change, let's ask two questions. Number one, for the people who stood up and said Black Lives Matter, what to change it we want to see in how they address consumers? And for the people who did not stand up and say Black Lives Matter, what's the change we want to see? And how do we hold them both accountable?
Somebody.
Yes, I mean, it's a multi-fold question because it happens on so many different levels.
Mhm.
And what you don't want to do is say, go out and hire a bunch of Black people, because then it also puts so much work on the Black person.
Yes.
Like even in some of our, we're on, so many boards and different stuff, and people come and they're like, we want to be more diverse. Taneka, Johnny, give us suggestions on how to be more diverse. And it's like,
For free.
for free. It's like, well, I'm not here for that. Or if that's what you want, let's hire somebody that's, is an expert in that field who could start doing it. But I think it echoes what Samara said earlier. You have to educate yourself. But what I have seen is some brands dedicate a whole week for their staff to educate themselves.
Yeah.
And they read books and they watch movies and they have dialogue. And there are some that are continuing to do that.
Restaurant groups as well. There's some restaurant groups in Charleston who are taking time off to really
re-educate,
sensitivity training, diversity sensitivity training. So
anti-racism training. I mean, there's so many different levels, unconscious bias. There's so many levels that need to be peeled back. So I want to encourage these brands who are not taking the time to reflect, to give their employees paid time to educate themselves on some of the biases and some of the prejudices that they have, and examine their practices as well. We're also encouraging them to add to their mission statement some sense of inclusivity or diversity, or some line that is specifically geared towards making their workspace, making their subcontractors, all their independent workers, some level of that has to be diverse. I mean, I hate having quotas, but if you don't put a number on certain things, people don't feel like they don't have a mark that they have to reach.
Yeah.
And they will call one or two people in the room
and say it's diverse
and say that's inclusive. So, putting some type of goal for certain brands in their communities to say in 5 years, our staff is going to look like this, because it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
To add to that, the conversations that I've had are, in order to make them accountable, is again going back to your sales force and what your sales force's goals are. And so the challenge is for everybody that has that large budget and the generic budget, the ritzy 5-course pairings and for dinners and all that stuff, put it in their quota, put it in their sales quota, and make it a point to say, no, you just can't go to your friends and to these accounts that you constantly love and give love to and spend budget money on, because we all know the spirits industry is built on nepotism. They go to the same 4 or 5 restaurants in the city, they meet their sales quotas, they're done. But you have to charge the sales reps on and off premise, and this also includes distribution for all the distributors who are a part of this conference as well. You have to push yourself to go into I want to say uninhabited, but to new accounts, to new accounts, to accounts that you've never been into. And that means accounts in neighborhoods that you've never been into. And so again, that does go back to the sensitivity training, that does go back into the unconscious bias, because you have to ask your staff, why are you so afraid to go into the North Side? Why are you so afraid Fatima, to go into the South Side. Like, there are amazing accounts in the South Side, amazing restaurants, amazing on-premise accounts, like on and off. So why aren't you guys investing your time there? What is it that won't drive you down that way? But if you make it a part of their sales quota, that they have to go to new accounts, new cultural accounts, then that forces them to get out of their comfort zone. And that's what this whole thing is about. Folks are so stuck in what's comfortable to them, right, that they don't realize that they've blocked out everybody else.
You know what's uncomfortable? Being marginalized. It's incredibly uncomfortable.
Some people have never been marginalized, so they don't know what that feels like.
They have no idea.
So you have to expose that.
Oh my God. And then when they get marginalized, it's like over the silliest thing ever. And it's like the sky is falling and my feelings are hurt and I'm going to sue and this has to make the news. It's like, really? Okay.
We've got Cocktail Bandit saying it's education. We've got Black Bourbon Society saying that people need to restructure their marketing budgets. Fatima, let me ask you this question. If we're talking about how consumers are treated, how can people make Black people feel not just safe, but welcome in their spaces?
They just need to open their ears and listen. Like, we're telling them what they need to do, like, all the time. Like, your panel on your Tales of the Cocktail panels, you told them exactly what they need to do. It's like, all they need to do is listen and then talk, like, invite us into the space, like, make it comfortable for us, like, by not just like, oh, we're gonna play hip hop. We're gonna give you education about this thing based on who you are and not what we think of you. I think that's how they can make us not feel that way.
I think when they go in our neighborhoods too, that they should invite people from the community into their restaurants.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that they don't market to the people who actually live in those neighborhoods, and they're trying to get people out of that neighborhood to come in, but the people there need to know what's going on there. They've been living there 30 years, 40 years, and you just come in last week and you're so entitled, you don't even invite people who live and breathe this community into your establishment. We see it all the time here in Charleston. It's disgusting. People who
somebody
walk up.
Somebody who's like a multicultural like brand person, who's a Black person, mentioned before when I was talking about it prior to pre-riots, pre-COVID, all that. And they said that some people in Black communities don't want to see somebody who doesn't look like them try to sell them something. I mean, this is something that came out of their mouth, like, because I was talking about why, like, you have this brand, this person put all these addresses on this flyer to say, go get this particular spirit at these places, and none of them were on the South Side. And this person who's like the national director happened to be sitting at the bar I was at, and he actually said, like, sometimes when you go to the, like, some people don't want to see like a white person come to their bar and tell them this is what you need to, like, drink this thing, or this is the best spirit, you know, like. So I think they also, brands need to hire more Black people.
Well, that's the key word. It's some people, because some people are really interested in trying something new, especially
this is true. I agree. I totally
store.
agree. I agree with that. I was just repeating what that was that person's thought about why a lot of brand folks, and this is a Black person saying these things, and so he's like, a lot of people in those bars don't want, you know, a non-Black person.
In those situations, I feel like if Black people are trying to put ourselves in a box. Because he can't speak for his whole community. He can only speak for his own personal feelings. That's what it sounds like to me. He can't really speak for the girl that's across the street who might want a job in that restaurant. So it's like things that I'm interested in, a lot of my family are not interested in. And that's what's so great about being your own person. You can kind of figure that stuff out yourself. So we hear that kind of talk all the time. Yeah. We started even in the industry. Who's gonna want to listen to girls talk about drinking? Y'all are women. Y'all are in the South. Y'all are this. Don't even take a picture with a cocktail. I mean, this is what we've heard. So if we followed the traditions, we would not be in our industry right now. So
I totally agree with that.
I think this is a yes and. So I think that, you know, Fatima is right, and this is something that, you know, we talk to brands about a lot. because it does push the case for more diverse hires within these organizations.
Right.
And so really your workforce should reflect the audience you want to attract.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, that goes for these big conglomerates and these small conglomerates, and that also goes for black-owned brands, and it goes for white-owned brands. And sometimes the brands completely miss it because they're trying to assimilate as to what they think. They're falling into the stereotype of what they think a consumer is, like, you know, the major consumer is. And so, yes, you do need to have a diverse workforce. It needs to reflect your consumer base, right? Or the consumer you want to have.
Yeah.
Also, here's a number 2 reason. We haven't talked about it. We don't have to spend much time because we're running out. But as our census records come out and the trajectory of this country, the makeup of this country will be more diverse than not in the next couple of years. We're talking about this is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. So this is happening very soon. Yep. You need to develop a workforce that is actually reflective of our demographic as a society. And that is that 20% bucket that they keep shoving us in right now. Actually, in the next 10 years, that's what all of America's going to look like. Mm-hmm. So these companies really do need to get on it, and they need to start being more diverse in their thinking. They need to start thinking ahead, not built off of historically what their consumer looks like, but what does America, what is society, what do their new trending consumers look like, which is Black and Latino and women. They need to be focused more on getting a workforce that reflects that.
Let me say one more thing on this topic.
Please.
I would be remiss if I don't say, Taneka and I have been in rooms that have been very tough rooms where we had to sell ourselves, sell our business, sell our brand to an audience that didn't know what we were about, didn't know about Instagram, didn't know anything about social media marketing. So for somebody to say, oh, this person doesn't want to be sold to, is a cop out to me. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a good salesman, you can sell to anybody. So I don't want to hear, oh, they're not open to it. Oh, they don't understand. It's your job to educate them and to pitch them on your services and to show them why there's a benefit for them working with you. We've all of us on this screen have had to do that. And we are still having to do that to be in some rooms and at some tables. Yeah. And that fight will continue. So these white salespeople who are uncomfortable in these spaces, get used to it.
Johnny, don't think I agreed with him, Johnny.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
I'm just saying, like,
it's for those people who feel that way.
It's for those people, Fatima. We ain't got. It's not you, girl. We just
okay. So I was like, oh, really? That's what you. We had a whole conversation about this, but he's like the manager of these people, and he has this perspective, and so he's not gonna fight, like, not fighting to make people go to these sides of town that they're not comfortable going to. And so, like, I thought that was a problem.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Trust me, I did not. I'm like, oh, okay.
We got 10 minutes left. Let's talk about accountability. And let's start off the conversation by saying, arrest Breonna Taylor's killers.
Here's to that.
Yeah.
I ran out.
And
smack that attorney general.
And do something with Daniel Cameron, who is trying to suppress all of this information around her murder, so that it can never come up again in public. That is really dangerous when you've got someone who is trying to suppress and hide information from the public. That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody who's been on the ground too at those protests, peacefully protesting for our rights, for Breonna Taylor's rights. We know people like James Cox in Oakland, and there's so many people in our industry who are out there getting arrested, who are putting their livelihood on the line to protest and to be our voice on the street. So much thanks and appreciation for everyone who's doing that.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
So let's say this: we've got the people who are trying to do something, and the people who didn't try to do anything. From a brand perspective, from a consumer perspective, sorry. And from a restaurant perspective, how do we hold them accountable? What can we actually do?
So for us, it's so that's where the real work begins. Like, yes, I agree with Johnny and Taneka that this is some of this is kind of reactionary and performative, but I would take it and run them through this reactionary and this performative stage right on into a corner where they have to be held accountable for every decision they make in the future. So it goes beyond this year, goes beyond 2020, beyond 2021, but it really is like, okay, we gave you the tools. Have you used them? Can we get a report on that? Where are we on the update? As you're all of us have like nonprofits and businesses and consultancies that do this, but I think it's going to become a time where we say where we run analyses on these brands and say, what is your score? Right. What is your diversity grade? If we had to come in and do an audit on you, on your principles, on your mission statements, on your staffing, on your initiatives, what would you score? And so, I mean, we're just getting started. Like I said, we're still in the unlearning phase, but the accountability is in the retraining and the implementation. And so our work is cut out for us. We got a long way to go.
Okay.
I feel like really working with brands who took the initiative in the very beginning. We know brands, especially like brands with Bacardi, who really took the initiative early on to learn about things and give us opportunities, paid opportunities, when everybody else was scurrying around not knowing what to do. So I like to stay loyal to brands like that and actually use them as a benchmark with other brands to say, here, this is what you can do because brands are doing this.
Yeah, and to report on the progress.
Yeah.
Here locally, we got some pushback off of a local company that we were working with, and we told that company immediately. And next time that we did a live or did an event, we brought them on camera for them to speak for themselves and to say, this is what we are doing as a group to combat gentrification, to combat racial injustice as a company and as a brand. So, not only just for us to be used as a mouthpiece for them to come and speak and say, we know this is an issue, we're working for that, and to praise progress.
I agree.
What about restaurants? What can we do?
Spend our dollars wisely. If you see a brand or a restaurant group or company who is not taking an initiative to hire more Black staff, not taking an initiative to market into multicultural environments, and that means put an ad inside Essence. Go to one of these Black food festivals and have a booth there and give them some marketing dollars. Put your money where your mouth is. And if we look back a year later and they're not doing that, no longer patronize that establishment.
And it's that clear. On their social medias, if you don't see Black and brown hands, we make a point to talk about Black and brown hands in beverage pictures because you don't ever see it. You think that only white people drink in America, and that's not true. We like nice, fine cocktails as well. We have nice nails as well. We want to show our beautiful drinks and our fingers too. Mm-hmm. So it's just small things like that with brands. When I don't see people of color enjoying your product on your social media, you need to change that. You need to hire some Black talent. You need to find Black influencers. There's just so many different spheres of Black people who are not getting the same opportunities as these white influencers who can do a model thing, and then they got a beverage campaign, and then they have this makeup campaign, and then they have this. And then in our pool, we're over here fighting for the same contracts. It doesn't make sense.
I feel like restaurants need to have their staff, like front of the house people you can see, front of the house staff reflect diversity that they want to see. Like you go to a restaurant that has a mostly white staff, most of the guests are going to be white. Mm-hmm. So I would love for restaurants to hire more people in front of the house that are people of color and not just, Black people specifically, because we don't see that a lot at these restaurants that are not in underrepresented neighborhoods. You know what I'm talking about? So I think that would actually be a show of the accountability, that they're actually doing what they say that they were going to do, that they're not just being performative, not just putting up the Black square. They're actually hiring people, learning what diversity, inclusion, racial equity, all those terms mean, and actually implementing those things. That's what I want to see that for restaurants.
Show us the honey, we show you the money.
Exactly.
All right, we're just about out of time. Let's do the closing round of statements. we all want to see change. And truthfully, like, not that I don't want to see things better from a generation from now, but if we're having this conversation a year from now, what's the change that you hope that we've seen? What do you really want to see, either the brands or the bars or the restaurants? What change are we asking them to do? Let's be specific. We got education, we got hiring. Let's go around. We'll do one round.
Who's starting?
I want to shout out all the essential workers who are working in the hospitals, driving buses, cabs, all that stuff during that time. How we're able to work from home and our safety in our home and do this virtual. People do not have that luxury. So thank you all for doing that. And hopefully we'll get through all of this together. Let's stay at home, wash our hands, and cover our mouths and all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Well, my goal is just for our hospitality family to be bigger. Like, I'm just tired of, like, when the world opens back up, I want to see a whole group of Blacks at Tales of the Cocktail. I want to see a whole group of Blacks at these other beverage and food festivals. And even us coming up with our own, where we can, you know, be curators of something that's completely different and nuanced and new and niche and all of that good stuff. So I really hope that this opens up our career space to other people of color and let them know that they're welcomed.
Yes.
Right. We definitely want to encourage people of color to join hospitality industry. There's such a career in it. You know, Taneka and I are the first African-American women to write a book on cocktails in this country, 1 and 2 right here. So we need more of our beverage stories put on paper and made a record of. We had such a hard time finding names, finding photographs of people who we know were a part of our food and beverage ways. So we need people to write these stories down. Get a blog, get you a journal, get you a Twitter, and write these stories down, interview our elders, and get that knowledge from them. Because if we don't keep a record, all our stories will be lost.
And for the record, who started cocktail culture in this country?
African-American people, please.
You know, we do everything right. Everything. We excel at everything until they push us out, you know?
And they can't push us but so far.
Yeah.
Fati, you were going to say, I'm sorry.
So from a brand perspective, I would love to see more Black people representing brands. I would love to see more brands in neighborhoods that they have not been in. From a industry perspective, I would love for Black people who are like looking to be bartenders or whatever to get the training, to have like the educational opportunities that other people have, to have the mentoring opportunities. If they want to own a restaurant, for them to have like somebody to help them with that whole process. That's like what I would love to see in this industry in the future.
Samara?
I would like to just change somebody's mind. We got a lot of unlearning to do, and really bringing the awareness forward on what implicit bias really looks like, individually in our society and also within this industry. That is my main goal for right now. And then I feel like we can do all of the above, but I don't want this to be done as a Band-Aid.
Yes.
And I don't want this to just be, oh, we're just going to recruit a bunch of Black folks. Oh, we're just going to hire a bunch of Black people and fill these positions. No, I really want to change some mindsets, because that's how you implement real change. So for me, I've got to undo generations and generations and all the political stuff, you know, that has happened and has soaked into these people's brains. We've got to purge all of that. We've got to baptize that out of them. And then I feel like we can really implement the change that we've all talked about today: recruitment fairs, working with HBCUs, providing the training, which is so necessary. We have Black bartenders, talented Black bartenders all over this country, and they don't get the recognition nor the shine, nor the opportunity to shine.
Right.
And so that is really, so we've got the talent. We just need to make sure that they get into the right positions, and we got to make sure that when they get there, they feel safe in doing so. But that has to do with changing their mindsets of their bosses, their employees, the overall strategies these companies implement as far as their marketing, who sets the budgets. We got to work with them first.
I want to thank all of y'all for your time, your energy, your wisdom, This has been so special. Sam, tell everyone how they can support you, where they can find you on in real life and the social media.
You can find us on Instagram at Black Bourbon Society. We do have a private Facebook group for Black Bourbon Society that, again, has over 20,000 members. We talk about bourbon 24/7. We talk about diversity and inclusion in the industry 24/7. We're educating, advocating, and just having a really good time. Like, we're all family and we're all friends. So join us there. My personal brand is also Sammy B. Davis, SammyBeeDavis. Join me and follow my own personal journey. It's really one that's interesting. Crystals and cocktails, that's me.
Fati, how can people support you and where can they find you?
Rooted in Hospitality on Instagram at Rooted in Hospitality. We also have a Facebook page, and the website is rootedhospitality.org. But for me personally, if you just want to see me in bikinis or whatever,
Okay.
Definitely.
at the real Fati B.
The real Fati B.
Right.
Follow. Okay.
Hey, Cocktail Bandits, how can people support you? Where can they follow you?
Yes, you can follow us on all our social media outlets at Cocktail Bandits. It's Cocktail Bandits with an S all together. We have a website, cocktailbandits.com, and you can email us at cocktailbandits@gmail.com.
We got Cash App too.
Hey, and flash up one last time.
Yes. Yes, and the book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. There's also a link on our website where you can buy the book. You get it for your coffee table, get it for a friend. The holidays is coming up. They make great drinks.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much. Stay safe. Stay home. Wash your hands. Tip your bartenders.
Yes.
Thank you, Jackie.
Cheers. Bye, y'all.